Des Shipp's life in fishing. So, with everybody, we've started. Where did it begin? Where did you go? Who used to take you fishing when you started?
Well, it all began really with my parents. My mum and dad, obviously, they used to go fishing even before I was born. And then obviously I got to sort of an age where they didn't want to leave me at home with my nan, because my nan used to live with my parents in the same house. And I started going to a lake called, well, I used to go to the Gloucester Canal. They used to go there. They used to go to a place called Tortworth Lake, which is still a you know, it's like an estate lake, lovely lake, big lily pads and things like that. And that was it really. And I started going along, wasn't interested. Always more interesting was going up, climbing trees, trying to dam up the stream that fed the lake. You know what I mean? Just trying to stop all the water from flowing into the lake.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, over time, I just started seeing, you know, the light, if you like. Started seeing fish feeding. I used to do a lot of what they call dapping back then. I was just literally
live daddy.
Yeah, well, just tie a piece of line to the end of the rod like a whip.
Yeah.
Fish a matchstick, and as you were chucking the maggots in, you know, the roach and perch used to be coming up swirling. I used to love that. And then I just got the bug for it, you know. And my brother was fishing as well. And obviously, when I was young, he wasn't even interested. It was just probably more like too much grief to take me. And yeah, it just went from there, really. I just went with my brother, went with my parents, went on my own, started fishing the local lakes, like Bitterwell Lake, which was close, push biked it there on all my gear. And wasn't interested in match fishing at all. It was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to do it, but I never thought I had it in me, to be honest. I just thought I'd make myself look a complete idiot. Yeah. You know, go away sulking because I couldn't compete.
Were you always competitive?
I wasn't. Yeah, not at that time. I wasn't that bothered. It never sort of didn't even think about it. Do you know what I mean? It was just like just going to love fishing. Yeah. You know, I used to go with my brother on the Bristol Avon up through Laycock in the, you know, the smaller river. You know, with Barble and I used to love it. You know, stick float fishing. You know, take a little lead rod with a big lump of luncheon meat on, chuck it down the, you know, trying to catch a big chub.
So you were learning all the aspects of fishing.
Yeah, you didn't realise.
Different styles of fishing.
Yeah, you didn't realise.
You weren't doing it because you were just doing it.
Just doing it. I just couldn't get enough of it. Yeah. I couldn't get enough of it, to be honest. I just couldn't wait to go with my brother. I mean, obviously, transportation was the biggest problem.
On your bikes. And
yeah, a little moped. My old man bought me a moped. It was called a Honda Express, and it was just like a scaffold tube with 2 wheels on it. And because obviously I sort of conned him into buying me it, because I said I was going to sort of try and get in the army and that, and I think he just wanted to get rid of me, to be honest.
Yeah. What was that, around 16?
I was about 17, and I used to load it up. He had a little basket on the front. That's why I used to
Miss Daisy.
Yeah, look like a right prat. I used to put my keep nets in that, and I used to go off down to Cageham. I mean, from Cageham to my house at the time in a car would probably have taken 15 minutes. On my moped, it took about 2.5 hours. But yeah, that was it. That was the start of it, and just used to go down to Swinford, Cageham, you know, everywhere. Once I got myself a bit of transport. And that's where it all started, basically. Yeah, my parents, my brother, and then I met a guy called Ian Polsford, who's unfortunately he's not here anymore. Steve Mayo I got to know, and that's when I sort of got into team fishing.
Yeah, so that was with Thatcher's at that point?
Well, it was North Avon back then.
Right.
North Avon was not Thatcher's. North Avon was like a local area where I lived.
Yeah.
And yeah, they used to have a little team with Steve Mayo in, other guys, and yeah, that was me match fishing. I started, you know, they said, "Oh, come on!" I used to go on the Kettname Canal as well with bread punch fishing. I used to do all that, just pleasure fishing. Yeah. And you didn't realise that all those years of just sitting there catching fish,
flitting from venue to venue,
you were quite far, not advanced, but you were like a lot better than what you.
And when it came to team fishing, and they would say, "Oh, it's all bread fishing, it's all stick float fishing," you were like,
normal.
"Oh, I've done that.
Yeah,
I can do that already."
I honestly just thought that all the other people that were fishing this match were going to be so far in front. You just make yourself look a bit of a pillock, really.
I think that it sort of transfers to a lot of people. Probably a lot of people watching this will probably think. But that's sort of the situation I'm in. I think that these people.
I never had a. The only guy that really Ian Polsford. I mentioned his name a few times in this interview probably, because at the time he used to take me everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was a good river angler. He was good, and you know, that we started popping along, and you know, croaquill fishing, feeder fishing. And he was good. He was like an old school river angler, you know, and it was good. You know, it was good to go and watch him, and you know, and then I think at time it was like he was sort of. He's probably thinking, hang on, Des, you're bloody beating me here.
It's a bit of a common theme though, isn't it? Like, so many people have had a decent angler kind of take them under the wing, taking them out places, and kind of showing them the way.
He's learned that off of someone in before, you know, in his generation, and it just carries on like that.
Yeah,
you know, it's different now. It's different now because you got DVDs, you got films, you know, you got
fishing.
Think fishing, that you pass that information on, and it's a massive boost to a lot of people, you know.
Yeah. I think there is still something different in someone physically being
fishing's
able to show you.
Yeah, fishing's different now. Fishing, you know, not all fishing, but there's a lot of commercial fishing. You know, I didn't even want to know commercial fishing back in them days. It was all about natural waters for me.
Yeah, and so you went from this to, is that how then you've sort of progressed? You ended up at Thatcher's, which at the time when you joined Thatcher's, they were dominant in this area.
Yeah, Thatcher's have always been like probably the best team in the southwest, if you like. I think.
Yeah.
Gordon League were nowhere, Jake. Don't worry about that.
Back in the day.
We're not going to talk about them. Yeah, and you know, Thatcher's was a shop that Rodney Miles used to run, and to be fair, he was a fantastic guy. Without people like him, I could never have got where I am now in my fishing career. You know, he used to give us bait for basically what he used to pay for it. You know, I mean, chuck ground bait at you, and back then we were skint. You know what I mean? We never, unless like Steve Mayo had a company car, and if it weren't for all them sort of things, you know what I mean, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It would never have happened. But you can't. It's not until you get to this stage in life you look back and think, Christ, if all them little things. People say to me, how can I do, you know, what you've done? And I'm like, well, I've never ever sat down and said, I want this to happen. It's just happened the way it's happened.
Yeah, because you've not always been full-time angler.
No.
Get that right?
No.
You what did you do before?
I was I started off as just a bit of an odds job, sort of working my brains out for labouring on building, helping my brother. And then I went on to a moulding company, horrendous, to be honest, making latex. Not sex toys, Lee.
No.
latex bits for diving costumes and things like that. It's just a moulding company basically.
Yeah.
And I worked in a slaughterhouse for 3 years. Got made redundant from there, thank God.
Yeah.
And then I started off in the printing trade. I was a forklift driver there for 20 years. And then things got to a stage where it was like, obviously I got sponsored by Preston. And then obviously the social media side of it come in, and it got too much. It was just like, hang on a minute, I was doing a 40. I was on shift work as well, which was a night shift and stuff, which was horrendous. Yeah. And they wanted me more and more and more. And it got to a stage I just couldn't, you know, I'd never had no life, if you like. Yeah. You know, because obviously it's an evil. Everybody thinks, you know, getting to my stage in fishing, it's just a nice, relaxing life, and it's not. You know, you're being paid to help their company like we all do.
Yeah, because you're not. Some of the other guys that we've been with, Andy May, Andy Bennett, they earn their living through fishing through coaching. Yeah. Yours is different than that.
Yeah.
In that
I'm obviously heavily involved.
You're a consultant with Preston Innovations. Yeah. You help with the product side of things, product development. Yeah. You do a lot of the media and their videos, that side of things. Obviously your own.
And that's really important. You know, when I first ever started doing a bit of work for Sky with Andy Ford, you know, talking to a camera was horrific. Yeah. He said, "Oh, I want you to present this week." I'm like, and I'd be looking at the camera. I'd be like, and the trouble is when you're talking to a camera, you're always thinking about how to end it. Yeah. Yeah. You're never thinking about how you're going to start it, and the ending is horrendous. Yeah. And for a lot of people, they can't do that. No. And I you know, touch wood, I've been lucky that it's got easier and easier. And I'm always talking to people. I don't lie to people, and I think that's always helped. You didn't realise it at the time, but it helps your career how it sort of ended up, if you like. Yeah. But it's different for me. I'm heavily involved in Preston's business side of it, which is fantastic. You know, been absolutely brilliant for 20 years to me. Yeah, and you enjoy that side. And in terms of like the product development side of things, is there anything in particular that you're most proud of in terms of like products and No, all I try and achieve is make sure the products that are right.
Yeah.
Because I'm the full.
And that you would use it.
Yeah, and because nowadays, if anybody's got a complaint,
they can go direct to the source. And
here, Des. And it's not just me. You've got other consultants, Lee Carey. You know, we're all in the same sort of boat. And when we sit around a product, you know, when we sit at a product meeting, we want to make sure them products are 110% right. You don't need, you know, the days of making that'll be all right.
Yeah, like that'll
be all right. Forget it. Them days are gone.
I think word gets around a lot quicker now.
If
someone has a problem,
and you don't need it. You don't need it.
You can so easily lose a good reputation.
Massively.
It's funny because in a not funny way, you can very, very quickly lose a good reputation, but it's very hard to build a good reputation. So
when you've got 6 people sat around a table and they've all got their own opinions about certain things, like feeder fishing, what feeders, how are we going to build this feeder?
Yeah.
It is difficult.
And you're all, those people are all top anglers, but you all have your own ideas, don't you? So yourself, for example, it might be you and Lee Carey, for example, both brilliant, but you might have different things. You've got to work together, even though you might.
You've got to come up with a happy medium. Sometimes you think, well, that's good for him, and it's okay for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's brilliant for me and not so great for him.
Yeah.
And
Maybe same vice
but
versa.
when you actually come up with the finished product, it's dead right.
Yeah.
And that's the most proudest part.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of things, and you know, it gets better and better and better. But I'm not afraid to sort of sit around a table and say, nah, that's crap.
Which is what they need. That's probably your most valuable asset to Preston Innovation.
I'm not going to sit there and just soak it up and say, oh, no, I don't really like that, but I'll just shut up shop here and just get up with it.
And then let them release something that you knew deep down wasn't going to work.
No way.
And and I think as well as obviously Preston Innovations respecting that, I think the public do as well. Because they'll see a product and if they know that you've genuinely been behind it, you've genuinely put effort into coming up with it, and you use it, that's the most.
There's always little mistakes. There's always, you know, not on every product, but some products, you know, the guys I work with are, you know, the technical guys, if you like, the CAD designers, and that their job is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, working with people hundreds or thousands of miles away trying to get something right, and then they bring it on the table, and you're like, hey?
Yeah. The factories themselves.
And he's like, well, that's right, isn't it? I'm like,
I've heard stories with the factory. Obviously, I've not worked on your side of it, but they'll send you the sample, perfect. You send it back, they send it back, and then what they send you back.
There's stories I could tell you which have been, and I'm not going to, but we've, you know, some on several occasions, you know, we've had a finished sample, and we said, perfect, and then they've.
Because to the sample, they'll send you their best effort when it's then
it's
mass produced.
And you know, I get my hair off of it because I don't need the grief. But these guys that I deal with, you know, you got to feel sorry for them. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. Everybody thinks it's just easy, and it ain't. The whole, you know, the whole picture of it is a very, very difficult.
Yeah, but that's where these companies, I think, some people, like for example, that's the risk when you're teasing products. And you think, right, it's going to be due, and then that finished sample could come across and it's completely different, and then you're like, well, we can't release
it.
And that's often where.
But you've got to try and, you know, over the last 5 years, you've got to try and cancel it out completely.
Yeah.
You've got to cancel it out. And that's what we've done, and I probably think, you know, if you look at the products now, they're just brilliant. Everything, every little detail, you know, stupid details.
Yeah.
And they think, well, that's going to cost us another $2,000 to get that tooling done.
Yeah.
Do it. And that's such a nice position to be in with a company like Preston.
And they're not just bringing out 1 or 2 products. When Preston do a release, it's generally a lot of products at a time.
You know, they spend a colossal amount of money on product development and tooling costs. I mean, I didn't realise, but it's like,
it's crazy.
Blimey.
Yeah.
But it's stupid things like you could spend hours just discussing like how big a hole on a feeder needs to be. And like stuff, when you're using it, you don't think about all the tiny little details that go into it.
There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. And you know, it's easy for me to sit around a table and say, well, I don't like that. I want it like that. That bloke there, that CAD designer's like, here we go again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got an easy job compared to what they've got.
Yeah, because you can just point and go, that's how I want it.
And they're not fishermen. Some of the guys are not fishermen.
Yeah.
So trying to convince them that, you know, what we're saying to them.
Sometimes the ideal product can't be created in terms of...
No, it's impossible.
It can't
it's too
always,
expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes what can be produced once, so you could get yourself a pole pot, chop it up, and think, right, that's great. I've used my scissors, I've hacked it down.
Yeah, and also
on a mass-produced basis,
what you've got to remember is as well, you're trying to do it for 90% of the anglers in the UK and in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, if I wanted that, I might be the only person who used it.
Yeah.
That ain't
for a
good.
specific
not
venue on a
viable.
specific
It don't work
day.
like that. You've got to do it for the majority, not the minority.
Yeah. That's where it probably comes to actually yourself being able to see it as well.
Yeah.
It's commercially viable.
That's what you've got to do, yeah.
It's a nice idea, but you're going to sell 20 of them.
Yeah.
And it's like no good to anyone.
Pointless.
So,
I don't know whether we've gone off the tracks there a bit.
No, I think that's summed up that. So there's not one specific.
So
product,
it's my job. Yeah, very lucky, very fortunate, and I hold my hands up. You know, I think I worked for 20 some odd years. Never even thought this would ever happen.
Yeah.
And it was only from things that have happened at Preston that I've had the opportunity to sit down and David Preston, who owned the company at the time, you know, said like, you know what, and I said, I just can't carry on my life as I'm going.
Yeah.
I need to either go full time or I'm gonna have to sort of
do less
for you.
Yeah.
And very fortunate, very lucky, very privileged to be in the position I'm in.
Yeah, I don't think there's many in match fishing.
No, very lucky.
Kind of on that level of.
No, there's probably only 2 or 3 in the whole country. You know, I would think of maybe 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, very lucky and very privileged. It's nearly as privileged as sitting down with you two doing this. Really.
We'll move on. So
yes,
moving
I'm
on
that note.
We'll move on from the Preston Innovation sponsorship side of things.
Yeah.
So your medal and trophy list pretty extensive.
Yeah, most of them in the attic because there's just too much dust.
You've got a few of your.
I've got a few medals in that. Yeah, these are like
the
you know, obviously they're not real gold, unfortunately. Otherwise, they'd be paying me mortgage off.
Yeah.
But they're the sort of things that obviously I've won with the England team.
Yeah.
Over 15 years, I think it's 15 years I fished for England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll read a few of them out. So you've got gold medals at world and European level. Double-figure festival wins at Whiteacres. You were the first person to win Park Dean twice.
Yeah.
Camazin final winner, Super League individual winners, plus loads more. Obviously, loads of smaller.
Yeah, I just love competing. I don't never look at I don't really sort of sit down and think of the history like the past. I always look at the forward. I just enjoy it. I just enjoy fishing. You know, I'm very competitive. Anybody who knows me out there, I'm terrible. Yeah. I hate losing. No matter whether it's a 10-peg match or a 100-peg match. You know, you always want to do well. Even if you go up on the podium and get your section money, to me, that's like a result, if you like. But yeah, I've always been the same. Very competitive. Get my hair off with, you know, if I don't do well, and that's what drives you on.
Yeah,
you know,
is that where it started? When you started realising, hey, I'm pretty good at this, you just wanted to go to
never
the
had
next
that,
level.
I've never thought about that, Jake. I've never thought of it. I'm pretty good at it. I've always sort of, don't know, the self belief. I've never had that. I've never thought, I should have won this. You know what I mean? I could win this. No,
but do you think that helps drive you to kind of keep?
I think when you get to that stage, I think you've gone a little bit too far. I think you need to take a step back. When you think, I could win this. I mean, fair enough, but I think it's a bit of a kick in the gonads when you don't.
Yeah.
To me, I'm always doubting myself. You know, whether I've done it right or whether I've done it wrong. You know, like the weekend, I've always come back. It takes me a couple of days to sort of get over it. Yeah. But that's where I am. I can't help that. But yeah, it's, you know, I just go fishing, just love fishing and just love competing and talking to people, you know, upsetting a few owners here and there.
Yeah, a bit of moaning. Not that you're known for it.
Yeah, it's just one of them. But yeah, the England thing is, you know, very, you know, at the time when I got sponsored, and obviously people used to say to me, oh, you need to, you know, if you join Dorking, because obviously I went from Thatcher's to Dorking at the time. started fishing for Dorking and got to know Steve Saunders as well. And I think we all know, basically, the England team comes out of 3 teams normally, which is Starlets, Dorking, or Barnsley.
Yeah.
And I'm fishing for Dorking. It was a nightmare, you know, travelling up and down the motorway. And it got to a stage where me and Steve, especially Steve with his, you know, work commitments, we were like, we just can't go on with this. And Steve said, look, you've got to carry on, because if you're ever gonna move on to your England thing, that's what you've got to do. Yeah. And you know, that's history now. But thinking of the hours and years of going up and down, you know, the M4 to London, around everywhere. But it was good fishing back then. Yeah. You know, it was really good. Different venues, from reservoirs, little canals, blubbering fishing, and and then I got the call up, you know, for like the Home International.
And have you? Yeah. So the home, was it home here?
Home? No, it was on Port Talbot Docks.
Port Talbot, yeah. In fact,
horrendous.
Yeah, you weren't. It wasn't like it is at the moment, is it?
No, it was 11 metres to hand.
You were off the wall, weren't you?
Yeah, 11. And anybody out there who thinks 11 metres to hand's easy fishing, it's not.
Hard work.
And there's a picture that actually Brian Gay took.
Was it chucking it down as well?
Well, that was on the evening.
Right.
The actual first day I won my section with 12 pound of little skimmers. We had to fish like to stop the tangles. You just imagine dropping I think we were fishing like 5 gram rigs, something like that, what I can remember.
Which isn't a massive float in 11 metres a depth,
not really.
Or 10 metres a depth, or whatever.
It was just because of the skimmers were only this big, you couldn't really fish massive floats. The fishing wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And if anybody out there gets tangles when they drop their rig in straight down, they'll understand what I mean. And we had to fish, in the end I fished something like 0.24 power line. Yeah. Just to stop the tangles.
Stiff line.
It was horrendous. And then I won my section, which was brilliant. You know, first I was actually sat back then on a boss box, and me bowling arms were those little metal crooks.
Yeah.
And Stevie Gardner came up to me and he said, "I need to have a word with you, Des." He said, "You need to look at your setup a little bit." He said, "You can't really. That ain't good enough." And he was right. You know, I learned a lot for Stevie. He was well versed on that side of things. It's a fantastic angler, brilliant guy.
But that section win, did that set you up then?
No, because the second day, it actually we had a massive storm like we're having now.
Yeah.
A massive storm overnight, and when we got there in the morning, it was chocolate brown. So it's gone from a nice clear venue to chocolate brown, and most of us come last, including me.
Oh no, 0 to 0.
It was horrific. And I thought, that's it. I thought, I'm finished, you know. And Darren Davis was there then as well. Darren Davis fished that one, and I remember I've done it in a one of the magazines when I got interviewed in that. I got home and it was playing on my mind for ages and ages because it meant a lot back then. It was like, I've blown this. I was gutted, and because you're sponsored, you're also under a lot of pressure. Yeah. You know, and I've always felt that pressure. I always have done, and I still do now, because you think you need to perform because you're sponsored and all that. I phoned up Mark Addy, because Mark Addy and Mark Downs were obviously captains at the time, with Dick Clegg. He was like the sort of outward person, if you like. And I phoned Mark Addy up and I said, "Look, Mark, I need to speak to you about this." I said, I need to know what the score is. And I said, is it finished? And he said, "Well, I can't tell you that." I'm like, "Well, that was a waste of a phone call." All right, cheers.
So that then left you hanging a bit.
Yeah, so I was like in the garage with a rope around my neck. And then the following year, I got a phone call from Mark Downs. He said, "We want you to come to the European Champs in, I think it was Holland or Belgium. But you're not going to fish. We want you to come and practice with the team. We want you to get involved, see what it's all about." Yeah. And I actually fished in the end. I fished both days, and I won. I think I was something like 7th individual.
Through your performances in the practice week.
Yeah. It was hard fishing. It was tough. I think I had 180 grams on the Saturday, and that was fifth out of 27. Right. That's how bad it was. Yeah. And then on the second day, I drew one off the end peg and won the section with like 7-8 kilo skimmers and bream. And that was it. I went to the World Champs then. You know, and that was when we won the Euros and the Worlds.
So it was quite a quick sort of escalation through from your first ever appearance at Port Talbot, going to the Euros and the Worlds and winning gold. Yeah,
and I think both years we won the Euros and the gold Euros and the gold Worlds 2 years on the trot, which has never been done, I don't think.
No.
So it was a good. That was the good days.
It was a good day. Yeah, no, definitely.
So
seen on Facebook a few weeks ago. You were in Poland, was it? Doing a festival over there. So is that, obviously, first thing was, how different is it to the commercial fishing over here? And is that something you're kind of looking at doing more of in the future, travelling for festivals?
Well, it's part of my job. You know, that's what the territory comes with being a consultant at the end of the day. You know, Europe's very important for any fishing manufacturer, you know, whether it's Preston or wherever. You know, Europe is a massive amount of people. Yeah. I decided that a guy called Patrick's been pestering me for about 4 years. You know, can you come over? And I'm like, I'm not sure. And I obviously agreed to it. And it was absolutely fantastic. I didn't realise, you know...
Fishing for carp?
Yeah, carp. We actually, when we practice, we caught carp, tench, a few bream, and crassio.
Okay, so not too dissimilar to...
No, it's a beautiful lake, probably sort of half the size, a bit smaller than half the size of Barston.
Yeah.
And the carp were brilliant, and they were really switched on, and I think it just sums up, you know, the magazines, YouTube, Facebook. You know, you think you're going to go over there and they're not going to have the gear, and they did.
Yeah.
And then they were a bit switched on, and it wasn't. They're not quite. I don't say they're not doing it right, but there's little tricks that they probably don't quite understand.
Yeah.
You know, like changing lines, feeding one line, and you know, you probably caught a few more fish because of that.
But the signs that they're definitely...
definitely growing, isn't it? That
massive.
Kind of
they love it. They absolutely love it. You know, I really enjoyed it. Apart from the dog barking on the other side of the road, so we couldn't... If I'd have had a shotgun, it would have been dead. German Shepherd over there. And there was 2 dogs. One was a German Shepherd and one was something else. And the German Shepherd would like go woo, woo, woo.
And then the other one.
And then the other one would start. And then when that one stopped, the German Shepherd would go again. and apart from that, the trip was brilliant. It was really, really good. And they were... The standard of angler was brilliant. It really was.
Good
very
job
hard.
Didn't bring Minnie. Should have got a boot.
Very hard to beat those guys at their own game, and they knew the venue. Strange venue. Bottom was quite soft. It was like a lot of grass on the bottom in areas, and you had to try and find it. It wasn't easy to find.
Yeah.
But
fishing, what, finding it and fishing away from it, or finding it and fishing to it?
No, off of it. You need to fish off of it, and it was amazing that I think one day I was fishing 45 metres, never had a bite. I kept coming back and my feeder was covered in, well, not covered, but there was a bit on the hook, a bit around the feeder, you know.
Almost like siltweedy stuff?
Yeah, just like someone had cut the grass and it had gone black and it was lead on the bottom in certain areas. Yeah. And I thought, no, I've got to try something. So I wound back in to 35 metres, cast out, straight round, caught like 40 kilo.
Yeah.
It was so apparent if you fished in the wrong place, you just won't catch as many fish. Yeah. So it's interesting.
You kind of don't really do it an awful lot with feeder fishing, kind of finding your spots so much beforehand, do you? It's kind of, obviously, like proper carp fishing, they've got marker rods and everything, like getting it down to a
it's hard to do.
It's
hard to do on a feeder. You know, I've actually bought these little lead things over there, and they're a bit like a Sputnik. They've got like little lumps on them, and you can like drag it in. And what I was doing was like chucking out to me clip where I wanted to fish, and literally as it hit the bottom, I drag it a metre and then wind it in off the bottom, and have a quick look at. I had a big swivel on there and this Sputnik film. I should have brought one actually, and then have a quick look, and you think, and then all of a sudden you chuck it out and it was like clean, and you had to make a decision for right, that's it. Yeah, I'm not going to be there forever doing it because your head would go. Yeah, but as soon as you found that little area, you just got on and do it. But it was brilliant. It was good fishing. Fight, unbelievable. So hard fighting.
What's like the water? What was the water quality like?
Very good. I would have thought the way they fought it. No, it was like a PT tea colour. You know, just like sort of off, not really thick colour. Yeah. But it had that, and the inside of the lake, wherever you went, you know, the Daphne, the little tiny bugs. Yeah. It was heaving with it. So the water quality must have been fantastic. You know, there was some big grass carp caught 10 kilo. One bloke next to me had 10 kilo.
What sort of weights were you catching? What was
the biggest weight I had was in the match itself was 42 kilo, which is
a nice weight,
90 odd pound, isn't it?
Nearly 100
pound.
What sort of size were the carp you actually catching?
There was a couple of small ones in there, probably about 1 kilo, but the average size was 3 kilo, which was 6 to 7 pound.
So it's just a steady odd bites.
It wasn't. You know, it wasn't lots of bites. It was interesting fishing and annoying.
Yeah.
You know, you just think, I just want one more bite, 2 more bites, you know what I mean? so sort of, you know, it's good fishing that, because it keeps you on your toes all the time. You know, I just dropped short, and you don't get one. You think, oh no, you know, and it was. But you could actually feed with a catapult as well. It wasn't out and out feeder. They did let
no pole fishing though. Was it?
No pole fishing. It's all feeder fishing, but you could feed with a catapult. So yeah, really good trip.
Yeah, something you're planning on doing a bit more.
100%. We'll be back there next year. They've already lined something up different next year. They want to go on a natural venue with skimmers and bream.
Will that be? Is that it still feeder or will it be?
No, it'll be feeder. I would have thought.
Feeder.
Yeah. I think it's simple for a lot of people. You know, like you said earlier, a couple of rods, a little bit of bait, and you're away. And it's good for me because I can take all my kit. I can take my rods, my reels, a few feeders on the plane. Yeah. And they just supply the box and the side trays and stuff.
Brilliant.
Where if it's pole fishing, it's just like
too much
horrendous, isn't it?
I suppose it's
So I will demand it's a feeder, a feeder competition.
Yeah. Right. And whilst we're on the subject of sort of overseas fishing, where's the best venue you've been on international duty? What's been your favourite event? Whether it's been the type of fishing or the fishing you've done, or
I would say it's got to be Ostolato in Italy, even though we didn't get it right.
Catfish?
Skimmers.
Odd
catfish, but they weren't allowed, unfortunately. But great venue. We fished the World Club Champs in there as well with Dorking, and we got it right. We learnt a lot from the World Champs. Amazingly, we were fishing for skimmers and we were putting joker in, and it was the worst bait you could put in.
Right. Yeah, so like you're going across thinking like, oh, it's dead cert, put joker
anywhere in England, skimmer fishing, you'd be like, oh yeah, loads of joker. But there's several venues in New York we fished like that. And joker's not been the right thing to put in. It's amazing.
Any reason why, or is there any like indicators that you can say that it's not going to work there?
You just can't believe it. We were when we fished the World Champs in Ostolato, we were putting more and more joker, and we were catching these it was Zander this big, and no one else is catching them. And you're like, and in the end, it was basically about putting loads and loads of ground bait in, with literally
next to nothing,
an egg cup full of joker in, and just fishing over your ground bait. They were literally crapping out the ground bait. Yeah, that's how important ground bait was in that venue. And obviously we learned, and when we went out to the World Club Champs, every other team was looking at us and thinking, well, we're catching these little Zander, they're catching a skimmer every
and they're all doing what you did.
Great venue, great place. You know, I think that's probably my favourite venue. There's other venues, but that has to be the best one, because of going back there and winning the World Club Champs.
Good memories. You worked it out.
Yeah.
And so
he was
spinning. He mustn't have done very well today.
I think he must have drawn one of my pegs.
To end this section, what are your goals for the future? Have you got anything?
It's difficult. Well, no, I've got no goals really. I'd like to fish more. Feeder masters and competitions. There's some great competitions now, isn't there? Whether you're a feeder angler or a pole angler, whether you want to fish the big, Fishermania, Maver Match this, there's lots and lots of venues. And I was only chatting to you earlier, and I said, I'm nearly 50 now. I don't look it like, but I'm 50 next March, and I don't know how much longer I can do the England thing, to be honest. I'm not sure, because I think to myself, at the moment, I feel like I can compete with the best out there at doing probably most things.
Any style of fishing.
Yeah. And I think, maybe I have 6, 7, 8 years left before you probably go over the hill, if you like. Ambitions really is just to carry on doing what I'm doing at the moment and play it by ear.
Yeah. And whilst you mention that, so obviously you think at some point your time with the England setup will have to come to an end. How do you see the next generation of the anglers coming through?
Difficult.
Difficult?
Yeah, I think we've lost our sponsor, which is a massive blow, I think. Whichever way, people say to me, it must be fantastic fishing for England. You must have, I'm like, you ain't got a clue, mate. The amount of hours, and prep, and that comes with what you do. I'm making no excuses, but it is a lot of effort. It's and now you've got to pay for it, unless we get another sponsor, which I think is going to be very, very difficult, especially in the senior side of things.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's going to be very difficult, and it puts a whole new light on it. I'm not going to lie, it puts a whole new light on the whole thing. Going to the World Championships, there's 6 of you that go, you could end up, that trip could cost you 3-4 grand, and you might not even fish. Now, there's 2 ways looking at that. People might turn around and say, well, yeah, but you're fishing for England. My missus is going to turn around and say, we could have a nice holiday. So it puts a whole new aspect on the whole thing. And I'm not sure at the moment. It's going to be the first year we go this year where, we're basically, we'll have to pay for most of it. And as the years go on, unless we do get a sponsor, they'll be paying for everything.
I suppose it's different, isn't it? Like, if you're going for qualifiers and stuff, you are putting a lot of money into it, but
you're getting a lot back.
You kind of think there's an outcome at the end.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, people say to me, it must have been fantastic. I'm like, listen, mate, if you go on a river, like any river, no matter whether you're in England or wherever you go to Europe, the amount of kit is incredible. That river could be running this fast Monday to Friday and running like that on the Saturday morning on the competition because you've had lots of rain, and it is an absolute head job. I'm not going to lie. When we go away to a river, it's a nightmare.
I suppose it's preparing for every eventuality.
You've got to prepare it for everything. You've got to take the kitchen sink, and sometimes you do all that, and you come back and it was all like
not even fish.
And that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. So that's where I am at the moment. Go into the World Champs in a few, 5 or 6 weeks time now, and I'll see how it goes and make your mind up. I don't know. It has definitely put a new light on the whole thing, but that is what you get out of it. Standing up on that podium, and it's harder and harder to get a medal.
But it's a proud moment when you do, and
massive.
Obviously, and that's what will be the drive for people that want
when
to
you're
do
on
in the
your way
future.
home, and you've done okay, the team's done well, and you've got one of them, right? Obviously, gold's the perfect end to the trip. They don't always happen. That's when you think every single minute of sitting in the garage or standing up in the garage, going through all the stress. I ain't gonna lie, it's very stressful.
I bet it is.
We're only fishermen, and we're not fishing. We're not in the Olympics. You imagine what those guys and lasses do. It must be horrendous. I'm not. But it's still the same outcome. You're there. You're stressing out. You want to do well. It's fishing. We all know that if the fish aren't in front of you, or if you do it wrong, you can get smashed up both sides, and it hurts, But that's where I am at the moment. Hopefully, this year I'll have a clearer head to what the future's going to be. Well, I just hope we get a sponsor. I hope we do get a sponsor. We're number 1 in the world as a team, which is unbelievable. We don't do that style of fishing. If they come over here and fished up against the England team in England, which they have done at Cudmore in that Fishermania thing we done, they ain't got a clue really. And that's like us, going to Europe, fishing some of the venues that we got to fish. We do fantastic, really. If we were doing that every week like they do, I think we'd be in a different kettle of fish.
Definitely.
So what would be the ideal scenario? Would it be another fishing manufacturer getting on board on the same sort of thing as Drennan?
I don't think it will. I mean, my honest opinion is I think we're going to struggle. I think we're going to really strugh.
I think it needs to be something outside.
I think so, yeah. I mean, if I was a millionaire, if anybody thinks I'm a millionaire, I'm not. I would, I'd chuck some money at it and just say, get on with it. I want you. I don't need your.
And we've seen it with obviously the ladies team. They have the same struggle. They have to fund their own, but they do have some support by Joseph James
the
Law.
solicitors, brilliant. Fair play to them.
And that's outside of fishing. Coming into fishing, the guy who runs it, the director of the company, is a lover of angling, and that's what he's done to support.
That's the perfect. That is the perfect sponsor. Peter Drennan has been the perfect sponsor.
Because he's
basically said, here you are, use that money as you like. Unfortunately, times have changed. Times have changed in his business, and I think it's changed in all the company's business.
Definitely.
If you had 40 grand a year, would you sponsor the England team, senior team? If you had to make that 40 grand 200 grand at the end of the year.
It's not going to make you money, is it? It's something you want to do to help angling and help the England team do what they need to do.
I don't know. I think you could.
It's brilliant to be associated with that team. When it was obviously Drennan team England, that was brilliant.
Yeah, but things have changed, Jake, because when I first got in the England team, I think when you went abroad and you're all dressed up in Drennan clothing, because obviously you were fishing under the Drennan banner at that, I think everybody associated you back then, when I was 15 years ago, or less than that, 10 years ago, I think everybody associated you that you were Drennan. Yeah. You were sponsored by Drennan. And until social media, everybody's like, well, hang on, he's not. And I think it's changed the whole way of people thinking. Yeah. They all know you as Mr. So-and-so sponsored by who you are now. Yeah. And I think I think for a fishing company, they look at that now and they realise that actually it might not be.
Yeah, it probably makes it a bit harder from, obviously, as you're sponsored by Preston, it's almost an awkward situation. They know you've got to wear Drennan
so it's not the same.
But they prefer you to be in promoting the stuff.
But it's not the same, is it? It's not. And I think for companies looking into that, must be thinking, well, actually, what am I going to get out of this? I'm not sure.
Because you're not endorsing the gear or anything like that as such. No. Obviously, you're using it because you have to, not offending anyone's gear.
No, this is why at the time the sponsor, Peter, was brilliant because he didn't. All we had to do was wear the clothing and a bit of the boxes and things like that. And I think he's a fantastic businessman at the end of the day. And I think he's turned around and thought, I'm fair play to him for sponsoring it for as long as he did.
It's been brilliant.
Absolutely perfect sponsor. You couldn't get a better sponsor because it was never the case of you've got to do this, you've got to do that. Yeah. It was like, here we go. I think it was more in there than what it was in there. Yeah. But I just hope and pray, not just from me. I've been in it 15 years now, but for Matt Godfrey, James Dent, Cameron Hughes, and people behind them. Yeah. It's going to be very difficult. At the end of the day, they've got jobs. When I was working, I had to take 2 weeks off unpaid leave. Yeah. If you've got to take 2 weeks off unpaid leave and pay for that trip, it puts a whole new light on the whole thing.
When you've got a mortgage to pay, if you
very,
take
very
2
difficult.
weeks off and you've not.
I've been through it. Yeah. To try and say to my missus, I've got to take 2 weeks off. Well, hang on a minute. What about our holiday? Well, we'll do something next year. Yeah. Next year goes, you've not had a holiday.
Another world champs, another European champ.
I've been through it, so I just hope. I hope that someone steps up to it and sponsor the England team, the senior team. Yeah. I'll be gutted if they don't. Being number one in the world like we are at the moment, and we don't get a sponsor is pretty bad, really. But there you go.